Welcome back to McCarthy Performance. We'll be doing the big end of an aftermarket rod, Brian Tooley rods. With the cap cutter, obviously, we're going to cut the caps, we're going to cut the rods. We've taken the dowel pins out. So that's what this video will be. There will also be some video of me hanging some pistons. So that's what this video will be, and we'll get going. Taking the locating dowels out of the rods, and the easiest way I found is to take a tap, starter tap, thread it in, put about 2 good turns of threads on there, thread a bolt in there, thread it in tight, take a drift punch, drive it, and once it starts to come out, back the bolt off just a little bit off the dowel and tap it the rest of the way out. And if you're careful, I'll take these and I'll face them on my valve grinder, and I'll chamfer them and I'll press them in so the part that I threaded will be inside the rod, and this much will be sticking out, and I can reuse the dowels. So that one's just about out. I'm going to back the bolt off the threads a little bit that I put in there. It's one of them deals where it comes in handy if you got 3 hands. Okay, there's the locating dowel. I grab it with a pair of side cutters, and if you don't grab it very hard, it don't make any marks. And you just take it and back it off. No marks. You can just surface one part of the rod, you know, if you're just doing a minor tune-up. But these rods are out of whack pretty good, so I'm choosing to cut both surfaces, the rod and the cap. Most of the time, 90% of the time, I do that. But sometimes if they're off just a little tiny bit, you can get away with just sanding the cap a little bit or the rod. In this case, you'd be doing the rod because you don't really want to go through all the extra headache taking these dowels out. Sometimes they'll pop right out, sometimes they don't. Just depends on how much press is on them. Okay, we'll back the bolt off just a little bit so we can get it off the dowel. Okay, we're getting ready to set up to start cutting the rods and the caps. We've got the dowels out of the rods. So what I normally do is I'll take the rod cap and I'll set it up on my gauge and I'll zero it off. Each one of these can vary a little bit, so I zero each one. Then I'm going to cut 2 off the cap and I'm going to cut 2 off the rod. These have seen a little bit of action and they need at least that, and they should clean up fine. So that's what we're going to do, and this is what I use, and this is something that I made, and it's nothing special. It's just a piece of cold roll with a hole bored through it and a tap for a set screw, and that's it. That's what I use. So we'll get going on cutting these. I may put a little bit of dye on these, and when I mean dye, I mean cheap old marker. So we're going to get going on it. I got the first one loaded up, ready to go, and this gauge is set up. So we're going to take the mating surface. We're going to put a little bit of marker on it. A visual aid. It's going to show me how much these rods are arched. So it's also going to tell me that if I'm cutting square to the cap. So we got that on there. Usually on old rods, I usually bead blast them, sandblast them, whatever. Basically, I use a bead blaster, but I use a garnet in it. So that surface is usually real easy to see once I'm cutting it. So I have some contrast from the 2 different surfaces. So that marker is just a visual aid. Like I said, I'll back the wheel off. I've already dressed the wheel. So we'll start on the first one. Fairly clean. It's a little low there, but that'll clean right out. That's showing about 1 and a couple tenths. So we want to be at about a good full 2 on these. I know what they are. I've already measured them. I know that they're quite out of round, but they should be savable. Which I'm going to call that good. I'm going to take a file. I always break this, I always break that. So we'll do that right now. Breaking this keeps from shaving the back of the bearing, and I always hit that, break that edge there too. Hope you can see that. Make sure ain't nothing hanging up high on it. I'll do this one. I'll shut the camera off and I'll get back to you on cutting the caps. Put a little marker on this one. Tang to the back, I always do. decide to do it, just make sure you continue doing them all that way. That's usually the way I do it. You can see that it's not cleaning up as good as it could. So we'll go through and I'll break these edges, and then I'll take a die grinder and lightly go around this hole very carefully, or an MX wheel. I might have a MX wheel that's rounded off enough where I can just touch that. Of course, these got to be washed out very good because we don't want any of the residue from cutting the cap getting into the... We're just taking a file and we're just lightly floating across and rolling the radiuses around. Just go over it lightly, make sure nothing burrs hanging up. And we'll get going on the caps. So we got the caps all dyed and we're going to get cutting them. Not cutting all the way across, caps twisted. Well, we're done cutting the caps and the rods, so we'll wash them and put them together. So the rest of this video will be me hanging 302 pistons on the 302 rods that I did. If you're wondering about the 350, it's kind of holding up my coat right now. I'm looking for a better cam. I thought the cam I had was a marine cam. The cam that I've got isn't much of anything. So I kind of want to make that a little bit of a hot rod thing. So we'll probably be getting back on that in about a week, if you're wondering. And that's going to be it probably for the Ryan Tooley rods. Probably be a second video on reconning, at least finishing the big end of them. Always kind of looking at them, make sure that we don't want to put any more heat in them than we need to. So that's why I check them every once in a while. Some of the factory rods are thicker at the top than others, so they'll heat at a different rate. It's not a bad job when it goes smoothly, but prep is key. There's nothing worse than sticking a pin. So far, go. Yeah, that should be good enough. Well, we're going to check them, make sure there's no twist in the rod. On this video, I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. I'll probably be doing some boring and honing on some Hemis. Probably be finishing up on the 350 if you're wondering what's coming next. Thank you for watching.